Hi there, and welcome to Unfiltered Solopreneur, the podcast where we share real, unvarnished stories of people who dare to break free from the corporate grind. I'm your host, Nikhil, and I'm passionate about helping solopreneurs like you turn their dreams into reality. Burnout nearly broke her body, but Cheryl Meyer didn't just recover, she rebuilt everything. In this episode, you'll hear how a 77-year-old health rebel turned illness into impact and found freedom through solopreneurship. We talk functional medicine, food is medicine, and why building your kingdom means nothing if you bankrupt your body getting there. If you're running on fumes and calling it ambition, this one's for you. I'll see you on the other side with my reflections. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil Vaish, your host, founder and CEO of Boost Solo. My next guest went from designing jewelry in LA to detoxing her life from the inside out. She's a fierce advocate for self-care, a 77-year-old health rebel with more energy than most 30-somethings, and living proof that it really does feel good to feel good. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I love to talk to new audiences.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show and talk about your remarkable story. So, I want to dive right in. Now, you've had a pretty remarkable evolution from being a VP in a jewelry business to being an award winning author and a wellness coach. What was the moment that made you realize I need to rewrite my own script?
I couldn't get out of bed. Everything hurt. It had been coming on for a while, but it was going through my head with the speed of light because I was too busy. I was traveling overseas, which is where I was doing my manufacturing. I lived in LA. All my customers were on the East Coast. So my body kept complaining, and that's what symptoms are. Symptoms are loud complaints because that's the language your body can speak. And I just ignored it. I thought, it's going to go away. I don't have time for this. And I actually thought stress was good for me and made me more productive. It was not good for me. And I literally woke up one morning and everything in my body hurt from top to toe, every muscle and every joint.
That's crazy. So, and we all tend to ignore those signs, though, right? We all believe that, oh, it'll pass, or it's just, I'm working too hard and it's a temporary phase.
I actually have a list of 35 things I missed that should have told me, and it's in my magazine that's online, that's free for everyone to read. They're the things that should have told me I was not as healthy as I thought I was, but
Yeah.
I just ignored them. And the first one, people laugh. When I looked in the mirror in the morning, some days I was puffy, and some days I was not. And I go, ooh, today's a good day. I look okay. And other days I was, ooh, this is not a good day. That was inflammation. Something that simple should have been the clue to me that something was going very wrong in my body.
Wow. And you used a phrase which really resonated with me. You said you were bankrupting your body while building your kingdom. And you just mentioned one of the signs. Now, I know solopreneurs tend to burn the candle at both ends. So are there any other signs that you ignored that people should look out for?
I should think about what they are. For one thing, I had pain growing all
Yeah.
over the body. Some mornings it was worse than others. I wasn't sleeping well. I have since learned that 6th to 7th hour of sleep they want you to get is when they squeak the plaque out of your brain so you don't get dementia. So I was having brain fog and I was having brain fatigue when I'd get up in the morning. So it would take me 1, 2, or 3 cups of coffee before I could get myself up and running at my full speed that I like to go. My skin was itchy all the time. And that's an inside job. A lot of these things start in your gut, and your gut is where inflammation starts, and your gut is where chronic illness begins. So that was another sign. I had agita all the time, which is what my parents called upset stomach. No matter what I ate, I was getting all kinds of acid reflux. I have no acid reflux anymore because now I'm eating an alkaline diet, which are all the fruits and vegetables that I want everybody to eat that are all the colors of the rainbow. When you eat that way, all that stuff goes away that's making you miserable. What else? I would have big lags in the afternoon where I just didn't want to keep going. My stress, which I commented I thought was good for me, was so bad that I had no cortisol left in my body at all. I'd been chased by a tiger so much that I
Yeah.
was almost to Addison's disease. And thank God I had not toppled over into Addison's disease, because that would have been much more difficult to recover from. And it wasn't that hard to control. I now do breath exercises every day at 10 and at 2. They take 4 minutes, and they take the top off my toxic stress, make me way more productive because it brings blood up to my brain, and then I
Yeah.
can dig right back in again. So they were little things sometimes that needed to be fixed and fine tuned, but all together made me one miserable person.
Yeah, well, you look wonderful now, and you look like you're thriving. So I'm glad to see that. And you're right, though. I mean, it's like and these things add up too, right? We sort of ignore the little signs, and they sort of build, and they reach a point where and hopefully you don't want to wait till the point you waited till, right?
No, you don't.
You want
I
to
have a
follow.
tip. At first, the universe hits me in the arm. Then I get the NCIS slap. I ignored both of those. What got my attention was when the 2x4 came down on my head. I couldn't function, so I had no choice. And
Yeah,
that's when I went through a series of tests and discovered nothing, because doctors, regular medical doctors, don't understand um,
no,
autoimmune disease. So she called me and said, "Guess what? There's nothing wrong with you." And I said, "That is totally ludicrous, because I cannot function, and I'm going to go find it." And she went, "Well, you'll be back." I was lucky. I tripped in what's known as the functional medical community, which is a new type of medical practice where they're all conventionally trained,
yeah,
but they either couldn't help themselves when they got sick, or
right,
they had a loved one get sick who they couldn't help. So they went for functional training. The big differences of functional medicine is they look at the whole body. So if you have something wrong with your liver, they don't go, "Let's fix your liver." They go, "There's something wrong with your liver and it's impacting everything else in your body. Let's find the root cause." And so I listened to 19 symposiums with probably 10 to 15 doctors and wrote down what the threads were so that I knew where to start. First thing I needed to do was start eating real food. I was eating at night as fast as I was working all day, shoveling in the standard American ultra processed diet. It was giving my body nothing to function on. Not we build new cells all the time. I had inferior building products to
yeah,
build my new cells, and it goes all the way down to the mitochondria in your cells, which is your battery pack. I had no energy left in my battery pack at all when I got sick. So I had to do something about it. So food was first. I started eating organic. I lived in LA. I started going to farmers markets so I could get it as close to harvest as possible, because things like spinach lose 30% of their goodies within 3 days. So I
well,
started eating live food from the source as much as I could get it. So that was the first thing. Second thing I did was join a yoga class. And I joined a Tao yoga class that was in my community, where I learned to breathe and control my energy and reduce the stress. One of the most interesting things is, I have to tell you this, they have a gizmo that makes a huge difference, and I saw this actually demonstrated at UCLA with the head of neurology. This is called a belly button wand. You put it in your belly button and you just jiggle it. Reset your whole parasympathetic nervous system in 3 minutes. And the theory is all your meridians go to your belly button, because that's where you were born. So you can impact every organ in your body and your entire, it's called your reptile brain, your parasympathetic nervous system, using this. There were
wow,
burn victims in Los Angeles. Half went to one hospital, half went to the other. The ones who went to the hospital that gave them this almost recovered completely. The other poor suckers never got over all their burns.
wow,
So we saw it at UCLA with the head of neurology, and then we ran into him at a health fair the next weekend, and he said, "Was that unbelievable or not?" I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. He had his brain scan machine there, and the brain scans were all over. People would use this for 3 minutes, and they were all evened out. So this is an amazing tool. I keep it next to me wherever I'm working. It helps a lot. So those are the first two things I did. Then I
Hmm.
started working on sleep because I learned why. I didn't want to get dementia. My mother had a rare form of Parkinson's and had a lot of dementia. I didn't want to go there. So that was the next thing I worried about. And then you need to move your body. Your body has to move. I was so busy working, I was not moving my body at all. So I couldn't possibly have been healthy. I wasn't building resilience with movement. And all those things, by the way, also go up your vagal nerve and release all your happy hormones.
Huh.
So, we have a depression problem in this country.
We do. Yeah.
And if we would eat the rainbow and if we would move our bodies, all of that impacts the vagal nerve, which is the superhighway to the body and goes everywhere, but it goes up to your brain and turns on your four happy hormones. My feet hit the ground in the morning and I am happy as heck. It makes such an incredible difference to your mood and your outlook on life, all of which is important if you're running a business. I was pushing through, but I was really struggling doing it, and I didn't know that until I got my health back.
Well, I believe it. I mean, it's the end of day now, and you're still very happy, and you're so I can see that clearly. The impact lasts through the day. But the other thing that struck me is the solutions you talked about are just so simple. It's not complicated equipment and $1,000 gym memberships and making time. Just movement, sleep, and sort of watch what you eat. Right? I mean, it's really not that
I had
complicated.
horrible brain fog. My conventional doctor didn't want to deal with it. When I got to a functional doctor, all I had to do were buy some Ayurvedic flower drops. And when
Right.
I get up in the morning, if I have brain fog, I do a squirt in a glass of water and it rebalances my body. Health and wellness are balanced. If you're out of balance, you may not be able to get yourself back there, but the solution to bring you back to balance is never that difficult. So
Right.
yeah, all together they work to create balance, which creates wellness.
That's amazing, and it's a great lesson for people watching. So I want to talk a little now about your jump to solopreneurship. Now, you mentioned to me that sort of walking away from a long-term partnership and the idea of starting a solo business was terrifying to you at the time. So what has the reality of solopreneurship been like for you?
I actually love it because when I had partners, I was always the workhorse. I'm the Capricorn. I was doing all the work. Now I do all the work, only it's for me. But the best part is the person I look at in the mirror in the morning has the same ethics that I always have had. When you have partners, you have to get along with everybody and you have to do things that you probably are not going to necessarily agree with.
Right.
And I had partners who I did not necessarily agree with. So to be able to make my own decisions and do my own thing was huge. And I loved it right from the very beginning. All the customer relationships were always mine in jewelry. So when I went on my own first as a solopreneur, it was still in jewelry. That's when I got sick. But the customers came with me. I had built the relationships. So it
Right.
wasn't that difficult to build a business. And the factory relationship was mine. And they backed me so that I only had to pay for the product when I got paid because they wanted to help me be successful. So it was really a wonderful experience to be able to make my own decisions, do my business my way, take care of my customers the way I felt they deserved to be taken care of, which is also what built the long-term relationship. It was wonderful. And we all have the power to do these things. We have the
Yeah.
power to create wellness. We have the power to be successful as a solopreneur. Not guilt, fear was my nemesis forever. I always had partners because I didn't think I could do it all myself, but I was
Yeah.
doing it all myself anyway. So when I finally, I call it like the fool in the tarot card, when I finally jumped off the cliff, guess what? You form wings and you fly and you get over the fear. And the great thing about being 77 now is the fear is gone. I have no fear to do anything. I just get to be me, and I love this. And I get to do with my time what I want to do, which is share my experience because I want other people to own their own lives, to build their own self-love, because that food is the foundation for wellness. Self-love is the foundation for your happiness.
Right.
Self-love is the foundation for your success. Self-love is the foundation for your abundance. Because when you get out of your own way, then suddenly the world is your oyster and you don't let anything stop you. So work on your self-love. There are ways to do it, but don't let yourself beat yourself up. And when that voice goes off, that's the ego in your head, shut it down. I took a course called Investment in Excellence. And when my head says things that aren't so nice to me, the first thing I say to it is, Cheryl, why would you say that to yourself? You know it's not true. You know this, and this are true. So go with that. And you do it enough and your brain shuts up.
That's fantastic. It's a great tip because you're right. We are sort of, I don't think there's ever a right time, and you have to take the leap to learn, right? And there will always be a learning process. But as you said, you will grow wings because we're more capable, far more capable of doing more than we ever believe we are, right? And that's true of everybody.
And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to
Yeah.
fail at something. And that's never failure. That's
No.
just a new opportunity to approach it from a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been a believer that I would rather wake up having, I mean, I don't want to lie on my deathbed regretting not doing things that I wanted to do, right? I would rather have tried and failed and not succeeded but not, been too scared to try. So,
And nothing is forever. So if you
no.
fail at something, you just regroup. You go at it from a different direction and then you succeed. And the success is so much sweeter sometimes when you've had a couple of attempts that haven't worked so well, but you grew, you
Yeah.
changed, and you came up with the right solution. It's very satisfying.
I agree. It is the sweetest kind of success. So I want to talk a little bit about your brand now too. Now you've written best-selling books, you've spoken on podcasts, and you've built a beautiful body of work. Do you feel like your brand fully reflects what you do? Because there's so much richness to it, even when you talk about it, and more importantly, why you do it.
Yes, my brand is truly It Feels Good to Feel Good, which is the name of my first book. I even had someone write me a branding song that I love because he took all my words and all the things I talk about all the time and put them to music. I have an incredible photographer who shoots me. We've done 4 shoots now. She shoots me through her computer through my iPhone, and I get better photos from her than I have ever gotten in my life. And she captures my joy
Yeah.
so that I have a large body of photographs to use in my branding. And what I talk about all the time is, do you want to be like your grandmother at 77 on a diet of pain and pills? Or do you want to be like me, ready to take on the world, happy as heck, having the time of her life? My life has never been better. And believe it or not, my life began with fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
Everything changed. I was even in a relationship for 10 years and he refused to change. So I guess he didn't really love me enough. And I found my soulmate because I went looking for someone with a list of this is what I need because this time's for me. And I advertised on the old fogey dating site, and John lived 10 minutes away from me and answered in 3 days. And we went on a get well journey together. And we're opposite sides of the coin. I'm the creative person. He's the technical person. He is a statistician. So we work together perfectly. He edits my books. He produced all my podcasts. He takes care of all my technical difficulties. And we are learning from different paths. He's gotten very involved with the town group we started doing yoga with, whereas I'm learning really more from the functional community. But we come together at night and we share. We're learning similar things from different points of view. So we're both always growing, always learning, and always sharing. And that's the relationship I want for everybody. But that can't happen if you don't love yourself.
Yeah. True. I agree. It sounds strange to a lot of people in the corporate world, who've been steeped in the opposite. But I completely agree with you. And I think one of the things about the solopreneur journey that I love is I found out so much about myself. I mean, I've grown so much and I've learned so much about myself, more than I ever did in my entire corporate career. So, and you're sort of standing there completely exposed, right? So
Oh, you are.
it
But
just
you get
happens.
to the point.
Yeah.
I started off doing it. I would feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's where I started. Now I just get out there and do it. I have gotten so self-confident in my authentic self that I'm not afraid to do anything anymore. And that's really what I wish for everyone. I wish I didn't have to be mid 60s before I learned that. But hey, now at 77, I got it down. So what the heck? You
And,
want to be who you are. And I follow someone called Anita Majura. She actually died for 7 hours and came back. And her whole thing is, you are here to be you. There's
yes.
ever only going to be one of you. Everyone else is taken. So get out there and be your authentic self. That's why we're here.
I love that message here also because social media today just makes everyone try to be somebody else or compare yourself to everybody else, right? And I almost feel like, you know, a generation has forgotten how to be you.
Right.
And
I posted this morning, not everybody's going to like me. That used to really bother me. It's
yeah,
okay. They're not my people. They're
yeah,
not my tribe. The people who follow me, and I have 5,000 people who follow me, they're my tribe.
right.
They know who I am, and I show who I am authentically all the time. In my wackiness, all the way down to my hardcore messages about pesticides and herbicides. It doesn't matter what my message is, it's from the heart, and it's me. And so people follow me and they want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I always and even in brand building, I mean, if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one, right?
Right.
That's the problem people don't get, and like you said, people not again, we're not friends with everyone, and we're not friend. Our friends are not always our friends, and that's just the way life works too, right? You're not going to be for everyone. You got to.
And it's okay. I'm not going to change who I am to
No,
fit into somebody else's, this is who you should be, because it's
yeah.
not me.
No, not at all. No, I love that. So you have your story is very powerful. Your health journey, about your health journey. How do you balance sharing such a deeply personal story with establishing your expertise?
Well, I constantly research, read, and I'm now starting, I get newsletters from all kinds of health people. I'm now
Yeah,
sharing that very freely on social media. I got a newsletter today from this guru, and this is what he said, and this is what I have to say about it. And you just keep growing. My knowledge, somebody said, are you as healthy as you say you are? Well, yes and no. I Health is a journey. So
yeah,
I am still looking for some of my puzzle pieces. I hired a new doctor yesterday. I have a lymph problem. She's going to help me solve that. But it doesn't matter because I am always willing to go to the next level and find somebody else who's got the expertise I need to take me to the next level because I'm not done. And even though I feel really good, I feel better than I did in my 50s. I'm not done. I know I'm not done. And the more I learn, the more I have to share with everybody else.
yeah. No, that's fantastic. And you are and sort of you're on this journey too. You're sort of sharing actively what you're going through, which I think is the most authentic way to do this, right? It's not like you
And
went to.
I want people to know that I am not infallible. I
Yes,
run into barriers all the time. And this is
right.
how I solve this one. This is how I solve that one. There are lots of roads to the same point of health. You have to find what yours is. So you maybe my story will resonate with you, maybe not completely, but you have to get so involved in your own journey that you keep seeking your puzzle pieces. And I like to joke my superpower is that I help people find their puzzle pieces because I'm not afraid to look anywhere. And
Yeah,
I'm not afraid to, whether it's a naturopath or a functional doctor or a conventional doctor or whoever it is, I'm not afraid to get the information I need from wherever I can find it. And my first book has a huge bibliography in the back of all the people I started following that gave me pieces of my original puzzle because I want people to be able to follow them and learn from them as well. And
Yeah.
I still follow them. And, we're all growing together so
Yeah.
that as each of the puzzle pieces come out and we learn from it, we share it with each other.
Yeah. And I love that you said it's a journey, right? It's not linear. I mean, it's like life. You have ups and downs, you have challenges, but it's really about outlook, perspective, and like you said, solving the problem and figuring out how to solve it and put the pieces together. So I love that perspective. Um, Now you're very active in social media. You just mentioned it a minute ago. What's one thing you love and one thing you can't stand about using it for your business?
Um, I love that I have an active group that follows me.
Yeah.
It has allowed me to close off some of the bull that goes on social media. I
Right.
could get inundated constantly with stuff I have no interest in. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go into politics. I had a health coach go after me yesterday for something political. I don't do politics on here. So please don't send me political messages. She said, but you have to. I said, I don't have to. I have my own opinions about health, and that's where I'm at. That's what I'm sharing. So if you need to share that, I'm not your girl.
Right.
And social media brings you a lot of. Now, when I first started posting on social media, my views were very different from the norm because I
Hmm.
was not, I was very holistic in how I approached my own health. So I used to get attacked like you could not believe. There were shills out there everywhere for big pharma, for big agriculture, for big food that would love to post all kinds of nasty things. Where is the double blinded survey that proves that real food is good for you? Give me a break. Real food is good for you. That's what we all came here to eat in the first place. So a lot of that is starting to go away, but there's a lot of gaslighting out there, and I come across it all the time. And it's on all sides. So just because somebody is holistic doesn't mean they're not gaslighting you as much as the industries that you would believe are gaslighting you. You
Yeah.
have to use your own common sense and go with what makes sense to you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because you're right. It's not just one or the other, right? It's
It's
happening
everyone.
across the
And
board.
nobody is going to save you. Not the government, not the food industry. You have to save yourself. Don't wait. You know how you should eat. If you don't, I have a book online called It's Not Complicated How to Eat. Read it. It's everything I've learned about how you should be feeding your body. But you make the choice of what you put in your body. I want everybody to cook because I want them control what they put in their body. Don't wait for somebody else. The bottom line is it's you. The doctor I met yesterday, I said, I want you to understand I like you. You're going to be my doctor, but I am responsible for my own health. She looked at me and said, Hallelujah. She said, I am more than happy to be your partner.
Yeah.
I want you to own your own health.
Yeah. Uh, You're right. Yeah,
Give
we
him the
all have to.
power, for God's sake.
True, true. And that's fantastic. She probably wants you to send everyone you know now to her. I'm sure every doctor loved their patient saying that. Now,
Actually, I had one look at me and go, have way too much school to say that you know more than I do. I said, doesn't matter if you know more than me. I
yeah,
have my body and I listen to it really well.
yeah, true.
You
We
can't do it.
No, nobody knows their body better than yourself, right? And we always forget that. We sort of outsource that
Right.
in a way that is beyond healthy, right? So I completely agree. But it takes time to figure that out too, because we sort of,
And I
train.
had both of my parents died of very unusual diseases, and I was an advocate for both of them.
Yeah.
And my mother's doctor, the first time I said, humor me, do this, because I was reading all the medical journals, even though I didn't understand them all. And he looked at me and said, who's the doctor? I said, who's the daughter? I said, how many patients do you have? He said, hundreds. I said, I have one mother. Can't we do this together?
Wow. Yeah. That's
And when
great.
she died, he called and thanked me. He wished everybody had a daughter like me.
That's a lovely story. I believe it, and that's fantastic. So let me talk a little bit about now the health and wellness. You're the real deal, Cheryl. I don't doubt that. But the health and wellness space, like you said a minute ago, is very crowded. There are a lot of people, sort of shills out there, right? So what's been the most difficult aspect of differentiating yourself in this space?
Um, I think consistency. I
Right.
started talking mostly about food. I actually have a course that I'm going to roll out as a membership because it could go for years. It's everything you ever wanted to know about food but didn't know who to ask. And
Right.
I have dug deep enough. I love to research. I know stuff about food that nobody in their right mind would know about food. I know how many toxins are on each thing we buy at the grocery store and what they do to our bodies. And it's all on modules so that I can teach it. But when I rolled it out and I took it off the market because it was too much information and everybody went, time out, I can't handle all this. So I took it off the market to make it shorter. And what's happened is it's grown. So I'm going to put it out in 30-minute modules as a membership and give everybody an hour where they could just meet with me and ask me questions. And I'll do those randomly so that anybody can find time in their schedule to do one in a month.
That's
It's
fantastic. Yeah.
everything from what are they spraying on our food, which is pure poison, to what's in our food, which is also pure poison. And you don't have to eat that stuff. Nobody says you have to eat that stuff. So I don't need somebody to change the food industry. The industry for responsible technology says it takes a 5% shift. And they'll pay attention to us because they don't want to lose the money. So
Hmm.
if we all join together, I did go back and become a real coach because I had done so much of my own research. I wanted the certification. But there was a guy named Howard Lyman who got Oprah into trouble because he was talking about ranches and beef and how the reason that our beef is not good to eat isn't because meat beef isn't good to eat. It's because of what they do to the cow and the whole Texas ranching industry rose up against her. Well, his name is Howard Lyman, and he came up with the phrase, we all need to be an army of one. So
Right.
I talk about that when I talk to the people who follow me. Join me. Let's become armies of one where I'm taking care of my body, my health, and you're taking care of yours. But together we're doing the same thing so that we've reached that 5% tolerance and start to impact the industries who are not taking care of us. They're taking care of profit. And if we all would do that, we can organically change it from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know as much as you, but something's definitely broken, right? I mean, people can't be so sick all the time and
But
so
it's
much
not easy to
medication.
fix.
Yeah.
The new administration thinks they're going to fix it like that. They're not. Big food, big agriculture, big pharma are a big part of our economy. You're not going to wave a magic wand and bam, it's going to be fixed. And we're only going to get healthy food and healthy drugs. It's not going to happen. And I'm not anti-drug, by the way.
Yeah.
88, there were two studies done last year that have proven that 88% of us are metabolically unfit. What drugs will do is mitigate whatever our symptoms are until we can change our lifestyle and build up our immunity from the inside out. So there are still some drugs that I take, and I'm grateful for them.
Yeah.
But I'm still working on building up my immunity so that someday I don't need them. That's part of your partnership with your doctor. When he puts you on a drug, you need to research it, find out what it's doing good and bad for you, and make a deal with him that when your tests show you no longer need it, you are no longer on it. That's part of your involvement in your own health care.
Yeah.
But do we need to just eliminate the drug industry? Heck no, we need
Yeah.
them because 88% of us are metabolically unfit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my mother has a phrase which I always apply to everything. Everything in moderation, nothing in excess. And I think that's what we got to find the balance, right? We've lost the balance.
Right.
So
And they want to go from here and all the way over to here
yeah.
overnight. And it can't happen. It won't
No,
happen.
won't happen. No, true. You can't do that. But so you talked about community a lot. You talked about your followers. You mentioned they bring you joy. So how do you cultivate that supportive audience? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I spend my first 2 hours every morning now posting. And I post on all elements of wellness. I post on food. I post on sleep. I post on toxins. My first book is all about the hundreds of toxins I eliminated in my life so that I could return back to balance and back to health. And then my second book is about how do I live this way? Because none of my friends were on my program. And so at first they were sort of like, why are you doing this? Why can't we go out to eat at this restaurant? I talk about in the second book how I vet a restaurant. By the time I walk into a restaurant, the chef already knows me. He comes out to take my hand because he knows how he's going to feed me before I ever walk in. And it doesn't matter if I now live in Arizona. It doesn't matter if it's a restaurant that's local here or if I'm traveling somewhere else. I keep all my sensitivities on a business card. When I went to France, I translated them to French. The people who I was traveling with went, you're not going to cook around your weirdnesses. First time I pulled it out, he came over, Madame, I make you something fabulous. I ate better than anyone else in my traveling group because they were so excited I had translated it to French. They bent over backwards to accommodate me. You
Wow.
have to take the responsibility that you're going to find a way to make it work, and you are always respectful and always polite, and you will be shocked at how they bend over backwards to make sure you're happy. They don't want to make you miserable when you eat at their restaurant. They
Yeah.
want you to be happy because they want you to tell other people to come eat at their restaurant. So
Yeah.
all of my tips, even down to how I killed bugs in my house without toxins, it's all in my second book. And the funny thing about my friends were they started off sort of like, I don't understand why you're doing this. Then I found John and we went on a get well journey. So then there were two. People would start coming over to our house for dinner and we would cook for them and they go, whoa, this is healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, this is darn good. First time I went to a party, I took something that was completely healthy and my dish disappeared so fast I didn't get any of it. You start to get people to understand what you're doing when you feed them because the stomach is the way to get them to a new place. All my friends have moved towards us. So now it's no longer an issue that I have these different habits than they do. But in the beginning it was. So you got to know that even with family, I gave everyone in my family a healthy cookbook so that when I went to visit them, they made something out of one of my cookbooks. They want to make me happy. They love me. It wasn't a bother to do that. So
Yeah.
you find ways to enroll everybody else in your lifestyle, and eventually they adopt it as their lifestyle as well.
But I love that it's you don't do it through preaching, you don't do it on a soapbox, you're not demanding, and I think that's the difference, right? Like you didn't walk into that restaurant.
I learned that if you pushed an employee, what's going to happen? They push back.
Yeah.
You can't get anybody to change that way. You
No.
have to show them, you have to be enthusiastic, you have to feed them yummy food. That always makes an impression. I
Yeah.
just had friends come to visit. He did not want to eat healthy, but he lost part of his pancreas. And after being here for a week, when he left, he said, this wasn't just coming to visit you. This was a 4-star hotel.
Wow.
He said, I am ready to dig in and relearn how to feed my body health. So
Uh,
that's what I love. That
I'm
gets
gonna,
me excited.
you converted me. I'll have to connect with you later to get some recipes and get some wisdom about that
I
because I
post a recipe every day, and I have a cookbook that's digital online that's called From My Rainbow Library. And
oh,
what makes me different, they're not all my recipes because I have 19 food sensitivities. Nobody wants to eat like I do. But I tell you how to source the food to get the highest quality food possible. So I can take any recipe and I can make it healthy and I tell you how to do it. And I think that that's my gift to share with everybody.
yeah.
And all the recipes are yummy. So that also helps.
That's fantastic. Yeah, of course, like you said, yumminess, negates everything else, all the perceptions or ideas that you
If
have.
you're going to cook, you want to get rewards for what you're doing.
Yeah. So you talked about self-love a couple of times before, right? As the foundation for everything, which I agree. What was the hardest part of learning to prioritize that for yourself?
I started, you'll laugh because it's a funny story. I started in the 90s. I had been divorced for many years. I was not finding a partner, and I decided I needed to do something about my self love. And at the time, there was a woman named Sark, Sark, who
Mhm.
put out Wild, Wonderful Woman because she was juicy, and succulent. And I gave the book to a girlfriend and I said, we are going to build up our self esteem so that they come to us. We no longer have to go to them. So every morning I would have a conversation with myself in the mirror and I would say, good morning, Cheryl. Have I told you yet how much I love you? And that you are wild, juicy, and succulent. And then I would call my friend Barbara and she would say, have I told you yet how wild and juicy and succulent you are? Well, we did that for a whole year. And at the end of the year, we had so much self-esteem that we were both in relationships.
That's
Trying
amazing.
it to not just being someone who wanted to please him
Yeah.
was the last step of that. And I didn't do that until I got sick and he wouldn't change with me. And
Right.
that's why I did my non-negotiable list of this is what I need if you're going to be in my life. And that's what attracted John. And he is my perfect partner.
Yeah, I can see that, having the little interaction I had with him as we were getting on. And also, you have this great phrase, you can't be great if you don't feel great, which I love, right? Now, so how would you advise busy solopreneurs who to prioritize self-care? Because the mindset very often is, I'll rest when I succeed or when I'm dead. I've heard so many people say that,
Yeah, I don't need sleep now. I'll sleep.
yeah,
Yeah. Guess what? You need it now. Okay. Why did I come up with that phrase? Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to bankrupt yourself just like I did. So
yeah,
start now. And self-care is not going for a massage once a month or taking a bubble bath. It's eating the rainbow and fueling your body with all of the nutrition that you need that also impacts your brain power so that you can think clear and be more creative. It's all aspects of health are self-care. And if you don't do it while you're building your kingdom, eventually your kingdom's going to take you down. And if you can't keep being active in your business, what did you build?
yeah,
You
true.
know, when I went to, I had a very good staff that was very well trained. So I turned the business over to them when I went home and started researching. I would just call them once a week and tell them they were doing fabulous. Thank God they had been with me for years. So they kept it going. And I did eventually sell the business and I made a lot of money on it because they kept it going and I took care of them when I did that. But you have to take care of you first. That means you have to take care of your finances while you're building your kingdom. That means you have to take care of your body while you're building your kingdom. You have to do things that take care of your stress. You'll be shocked at how much more productive you are if you let all that off several times a day. If you can't take care of yourself to be great inside and out, you are never going to be great because eventually your kingdom is going to topple. So do it do it all at the same time. Do it as part of your business strategy because it is part of your business strategy. You
Yeah.
can't be flying to China, Thailand, and New York within a 1 week span if you're not building your health from the inside out. Your body won't tolerate it. So you can't be great if you don't feel great. So take care of it all at the same time.
Yeah, no, wise words. And like you said, if and mind and body are connected, right? I mean, it's not like you're like, oh, I've got a few ailments here, but my mind is still sharp. It just doesn't work that way.
But if
So,
you're eating
yeah,
the crappy standard American diet, you're also probably depressed. That food automatically snuffs all your happy hormones. It's built into the food. So
yeah,
that if you're miserable all the time, how well do you think you're going to work with customers?
yeah, true. And what are you building it for, right? I mean, if you're not going to be able to enjoy it in any healthy way, so
Right.
I agree. It's a hard lesson to learn, but I think an important lesson for everyone to learn, especially solopreneurs. Now, the other thing. Sorry, go ahead. We're going to say something
This is
else.
the best time of my life. I want
I
everybody to know that.
I can tell. I don't think you have to tell anyone. We can see it. So it's wonderful. So now you went back to school at 67 and became certified as a health coach, right? So
Right.
what was that transition like, and what would you tell other people considering a pivot later in life?
You're never too old to learn. And I will never stop learning, by the way. That's actually one of the things for health. There was a study by National Geographic called the Blue Zone Study. And they
Yeah,
came up with some really interesting points that have nothing to do with health, but with why we live longer lives. One of them is you need to have passion for what you do. I certainly have found that. You always have to keep learning because you have to keep yourself vibrant. That will help you grow old and be happy. So that was one of their other points. Community is number one for health.
Yeah.
People look at community. Community is number one for health. So as you are building your own healthy habits, you do want to involve the other people that you love and you want to pull them in one by one so that you have a community. Because if there's several of you cooking this way, you start to share how to cook, how to make something fabulous, the latest, greatest, fabulous restaurant, the latest fabulous recipe. The more of you that are doing that, the more you're supporting yourself to stay on track because it's not always easy, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. All those three things. And community, I always say, and especially on this journey, right? I mean, it's one of the loneliest journeys you can be on in terms of building a vision.
Generally by yourself. You know
Yeah,
you have to change because if
right.
you don't change, you're not going to function.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to slowly build up a community that will support it.
Yeah, and that's actually my goal with Boost Solo is to bring all the solopreneurs to people together, right? And understand that we, like you said earlier, we may be one, but we're like an army, right? Ultimately, if we
Right.
come together. And
And together we have so much power.
absolutely. So the other thing was interesting to me you mentioned was you recently got trained in, I think it was Psych-K, a modality that works with subconscious limiting beliefs. So have you run into any of those lately? Any stories that you're still holding on to from
I
the past?
taken my last module in May. Let me just
Okay.
explain a little bit about what Psych-K is. Because we're in Sedona, Arizona, famous people come here all the time. So we've gone to hear Dr. Bruce Lipton 3 times speak. And his best friend, Greg Braden, is also truly amazing. And last time, Anita Bajori, who's the woman who you're here to be you, they all come together. Bruce Lipton does a thing about self-love. And he does it with muscle testing, which is something naturopaths do. And everybody who's in the group, and there's hundreds of us, we test to see if we love ourselves. Now, I had done all my self love work earlier, but my husband failed that. He was shocked. And then he said briefly that there was a method that you could quickly go in and reprogram your subconscious, that our subconscious is completely in place by the time we're 6 years old. And that if you're going to reach your hopes and dreams, you have to find a way that you can go reprogram those other adults who have planted your known truths in your subconscious.
Right.
So I heard him say it for the third time and I went, okay, already, I want to know what this is. So I called his office and they said, he's talking about Psych-K, which is, he became best friends with the man who put it out. It's now practiced all over the world. There are hundreds of probably thousands of people who practice it. And it's a method of joining the left side and the right side of your brain together so that you are the facilitator. You don't do it. You lead them to doing it for themselves. But they can take something like self-love and you can reprogram it in an hour or two. You might have to dig down to find out what's the block that's stopping it from working. But I'm going to hold a retreat in September, and everybody who leaves here is going to love themselves. And my module's about self-love. And both John and I became facilitators so that we can work with the people who come to the retreat and we can program that in. I'm so excited about it because I have seen amazing results just in the classes. I've taken 3 classes so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I have watched the people in our class change things that they were dead set against what's never going to happen. And by the time they leave, they're whole new people. And if you want to create all your hopes and dreams, you have to raise your vibration and you have to allow this process to work. He was a family planning therapist who said, enough already, they're getting all these insights, but they're not adopting them. So he went outside in the middle of winter in Denver and said, God, what am I going to do to get them to pay attention and to implement? And he started downloading it. And he ran into his computer and typed it. And I don't know if you know about A Course in Miracles, but it has a very similar origin story, which is like the modern Bible. And the woman who downloaded that was an agnostic professor from Columbia who said, why am I writing all this stuff? I don't even believe what I'm writing, but obviously it needs to be heard. So that was where he started, and he started with small groups of people, and he started getting people to implement, and he started helping people reach their hopes and their dreams. And the community grew so that it's now all over South America, all over Europe, all over Africa, Canada, and the United States, and probably Asia. They're just going to start opening up offices in Asia. It's really an incredible thing that I'm excited to practice, because I teach a Ditch the Standard American Diet class. And my deal is you can take the class again if you want to refresh your diet. People who have taken it 8 times,
Huh.
adopt it already. Implement it. It's not going to do you any good to have the knowledge if you don't utilize it. And
Yeah.
so I decided this was going to be my key to get people to actually adopt the healthy habits. But it really starts with self-love. And so that's where I'm going to start. I've written a huge self-love module in terms of why it's important for all aspects of your life. And then everybody is going to learn to love themselves, and we're going to test for it so that when they leave, it will be in place.
That's great, and maybe we'll circle back because I know solopreneurs have to deal with limiting beliefs, and and it's interesting you're talking about programming because it's like plaque that builds up over years, right? The things you've experienced and the way you've been conditioned, and especially if you leave the corporate world, and there's so many things that I think that is interesting. But we'll save that for another episode
Yeah,
because I think
I'm excited to get it so that I'm really good at it.
yeah,
And then the other thing I'm doing, which I would also recommend, is I'm working with heart math. Heart math has learned that our heart has more neurons than our brain.
wow, okay,
The difference is the neurons that are in the heart go 3 feet out of the body. So have you ever walked into a room and noticed that the energy was either really great or really bad?
yeah,
Well, that's because that's the heart energy of everybody in that room. I'm somebody who could walk past a tree that fell down and not see it. But if I walk into a room, I can tell you what's going on in everybody's life in the room. So that made sense to me, although I didn't realize it's because I have neurons in my brain that were doing that for me. Heart math is a way of breathing so
hmm
that you quiet your brain, which is your ego, which wants to maintain the status quo. And so it's a way where you breathe with your hands on your heart. You breathe in and out of your heart until your brain puts its attention on your heart. And then you enter this incredibly peaceful spot, which is where self-love, love, gratitude, kindness, and compassion live. And so you go into that energy. And when you get into that energy and you stay there, and I try to stay there for maybe 20 minutes, that's when you can manifest your future, because everything is lined up in the higher vibrations to pull it in from the universe. And that's the law of attraction. I am finding it incredibly peaceful to do. And if you're getting in your own way, I strongly recommend there's a whole institute that's doing research on this. And they're making amazing discoveries, and it's not difficult to do. So between that and the Psych-K, it all works together.
yeah.
And that's why I said I'm never going to stop learning, because I'm too excited by all this stuff that I am learning.
It's amazing. I never stop learning. I love that. So, in fact, so that leads me nicely to my question, which is if we were to meet again 5 years from now, where would you want to be? What would you want to have achieved other than we'll continue learning? I know.
Well, 5 years from now, I'm going to be well into my 80s. So I don't know. I'm probably still going to be working
Yeah.
because I'm having too much fun working. So where would I be? Probably holding more retreats. I have a home that's incredible on top of a mountain just south of Sedona, Arizona, that looks over wild, wide open U.S. forestry property with mountains on the far side. I get incredible sunsets off of one end and sunsets off of the other. Um, I'm a Californian. I never thought the desert would have this impact on me, but it's so beautiful here. And the house is so beautiful. I'm excited to invite people in. I'm excited to cook for them, have them eat 4 or 5 days of healthy food, learn how to love themselves, learn how to manifest, which is not going to be like anybody else ever taught you how to manifest, and then go away with a whole new perspective on going out there and getting everything you want, because it's your oyster. You deserve it, but you got to raise your vibration up to meet the vibration of what you're looking for. And all of this work will lead you to that.
That's a beautiful vision to have for the future. So now, if you could offer one piece of advice to somebody wanting to start their solopreneur journey, Cheryl, what would you tell them?
Work on your self-love first, because if you work on your self-love first, you'll get out of your own way. And that's what I thought. Yeah, I ran a department store of 300 people, and I used to say, don't give me the excuse. Don't tell me you're going to try. Just do it. Well, you need to just go do it. And the only way that's going to happen is if you have enough self-worth and self-esteem and self-care that you don't stop yourself when you run into that first barrier, because there's going to be barriers. I'm not going to lie to you. And that's part of the growth. And you want there to be barriers because that's where the great growth comes from.
True.
But you got to have the foundation there in place that you love yourself enough that you are unstoppable. And the retreats are going to be based on Alice in Wonderland, where nothing is impossible unless you think it is. So we're going to have a lot of fun with the theme. And you need to adopt that as your philosophy, because nothing is impossible unless you think it is.
Yeah, no, I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't covered?
No, I think I pretty much, you gave me the opportunity to say what I wanted to say. You have more power than anyone has ever let you know. So for God's sakes, pull it in and use it. Don't let anything stop you. Keep looking till you find your solution, because they're always out there.
Yeah, and don't give it away, right? Your power.
Yeah, no. And don't give your power to somebody else. They'll tell you can't do it. Well, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Great way to get to our rapid fire round. So I'm just going to throw a couple of questions at you, Cheryl, and give us whatever comes to mind. What's the strangest place you've ever meditated?
Probably in a bathroom.
Okay.
I get over peopled sometimes. And when I get over peopled, sometimes the only place I can find that's just quiet and mine is the bathroom, whether it's a friend's bathroom or, whatever. And I'll go take a bath and I will sit there and I will do my breathing. I will center my body and I will do my meditation. And that's probably the most unusual place that I have done that. It doesn't matter where you do it. You need to have peace and quiet. You need to get in tune with your heart energy. And you need to listen to yourself. And the only way that's going to happen is if you get quiet so that you can hear yourself.
True. What's a self-care ritual you once rolled your eyes at, but now love?
Well, I do all kinds of things for self-care, and for years, I did nothing for self-care, so they all sort of were eye-rolling. But I have an issue with my limbs, so I have what I call my mini trampoline, and I jump on it. And it's fun. It sort of brings out my inner child, because it's just a little trampoline with a handle, and I jump on it, and it actually, I don't know if you know what the lymph system is. A lot of people don't. It runs the same direction as your circulatory system, but what it does is it goes around all your cells and picks up the trash. And so it doesn't have its own motor. The heart has its own motor. You have to move in order for your lymph system to flow. And so in order to get your lymph system to flow, you need to move. And the mini trampoline is one of the best things you can do so that it flows and picks up all that trash and gets it out of your body. And I need the extra help because mine got so clogged after doing nothing for it for years. That's the only way I can keep it flowing.
I love that. I think I'm going to have to invest in one.
So it's a lot of fun. And I used to have MTV that I would try to find to watch, and that doesn't exist with music anymore. But there are music videos somewhere on your cable television, and I put on music videos and I watch them and I just jump. And I jump from one foot to the other. I do different things on a very small space. Doesn't matter as long as you keep moving. And you don't have to fly in the air like you do on a big trampoline. You just need to jiggle. And it is so good for your body.
Sounds like fun. What's one food you thought you'd miss but don't?
Sugar. Sugar. terrible for you. And I thought I would really miss it. It doesn't mean I don't eat anything sweet, but I don't eat corn syrup or sugar. I do eat a little bit of coconut sugar, which is very low glycemic. And since I was diabetic, I'm no longer diabetic. I do use some coconut sugar because it doesn't impact my body the same way as regular sugar. I can't even eat as much sweet as I used to because I have detoxed off of it. And so now it's sort of like, ooh, blah, that was so sweet. I can't stand it. But you get off of the sugar. It's an addiction, like
Yeah.
any addiction, whether it was a drug addiction or whatever it is. It's not easy to break the addiction. But once you get off of it, you really, truly don't want it anymore. And it even deprives your taste buds of tasting real food. So if you try to eat vegetables and you went, ooh, blah, I don't want to eat them, they don't taste good to me. If you detox off the sugar and the chemicals in the ultra processed diet, you get back your taste buds. I have clients call me and go, I just ate a cucumber. A cucumber. It was delicious because they're so shocked that now that their taste buds work properly, they taste real food. So
Yeah.
sugar, blah, don't want anything to do with it. When I want something sweet, what I add now is monk fruit. It is a sweet drop that is powerfully sweet, so you don't need very much of it, but it'll add a little bit of sweet to my tea, and it's more than enough to satisfy me.
That's great. Yeah, and I actually, I recently, I need to cut down my sugar, and I've been first time I paid attention to the packages, and I'm shocked. I can't find anything with less sugar in it. Everything has so
And it
much
is
sugar.
out in that food under 68 different names. They hide
Yeah,
it. They don't want you to know what's in there.
yeah, I know. It was an
And my
eye opener.
rule, by the way, is if you can't pronounce it or you don't know what it is, you put it back on the shelf.
That's a good rule. That's good.
Something that is not good for you. So why
Yeah,
would you want to put it in your body?
true. So, what's the weirdest health thing you've ever tried?
Probably colonics. I don't know if you want to get into a conversation about that, but it's an interesting procedure that
Okay.
really will clean you out of all the old stuff, crap
All right.
that's in there. And it's good for you to do it, but it was a little too weird for me to do it. Now I eat so much fiber, and there is no fiber in the standard American diet, by the way. They remove it all. You need the fiber. That keeps you clean, so you don't need to go there. But it's really a weird process when you do it. So if anybody's interested, if you want to help me, I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. We'll move to the next one. One word to describe your life at 77.
Happy, content, fulfilled.
I love it. And don't ever stop being fearless. And I have to tell you, Cheryl, your joy and your happiness is infectious. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being on the show and for sharing your story with all our listeners and honestly giving us a masterclass in how to, have how to own our power, I think, and stay healthy, right? Not bankrupt our body.
Right. And it's not impossible to do. And once you get into it, it becomes fun. John and I will travel for food. We will travel to go to a great farmer's market. It's like an event. We now know all the farmers. Took a little while here now that we moved a year ago to meet them all here, but you get to know them. They become like family too. Make health your thing and then don't be afraid. We'll travel for a restaurant. There's an organic pizza parlor an hour and a half away. They grow all their own vegetables and they use organic crust. We'll travel for that. So we make it into an event. And so health is so important that we make it part of our free time and our fun time too.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it shows. So thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl's story is more than a wellness transformation, it's a wake up call. She didn't pivot to solopreneurship with a polished plan or trendy niche. She pivoted because her body broke down while she was still building someone else's dream. Here are my reflections. You can't be great if you don't feel great. Cheryl learned the hard way that hustle without health is a trap. She called it bankrupting your body while building your kingdom. Solopreneurs' wellness isn't a luxury or nice to have, it's a business strategy. Your energy is your engine. Ignore it, and your whole business stalls. Self love isn't soft, it's strategic. Cheryl calls self love the foundation of your success, your abundance, and your happiness. And this isn't motivational fluff, it's strategy. When you truly value yourself, you stop tolerating what drains you and you start making decisions that reflect your worth. Nothing is impossible unless you think it is. Cheryl became a certified coach at 67, launched a business in her 70s, and is now building retreats on a mountaintop in Arizona. Whether you're 27 or 77, it's never too late to rewrite the script if you treat yourself like your most important client. Simple beats complex every time. Cheryl's approach isn't flashy: eat real food, move your body, breathe, sleep. No expensive equipment, no complicated protocols, just the basics done well. As solopreneurs, we often over engineer when it's the fundamentals that actually move the needle in our business. Community is vital for well being and success. Cheryl built community not through preaching, but through feeding people delicious, healthy food that converted her skeptics into supporters. Don't go it alone. Support systems aren't optional, they're critical infrastructure. Cheryl is proof that your second act can be stronger, braver, and more aligned. If you slow down, listen to your body, and bet on yourself. What you've built before is your superpower, and the limitations you think disqualify you, they might be your greatest edge. Thanks for listening to Unfiltered Solopreneur. If you got value from today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another solopreneur who needs this message. Until next time, keep breaking free from the corporate grind, and remember, your story is your most powerful asset. Live solo or die corporate.